Meghan Markle has said this week that she is the most bullied person on the planet. Chloe, is she?
I mean, this is just the most pathetic thing that has come out of her mouth. I mean, tell that to kids who say, get beat up over and over again, potentially, beat up by their parents in abusive households
Benjamin
and whatnot.
Benjamin gets bullied at GBNews.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage.
Yeah, Benjamin's probably bullied more than Meghan Markle.
Yeah,
I mean,
Nigel
how
Farage took his dinner money off
pretentious
him
are
yesterday.
you, Meghan Markle?
Well, what do we think about this? I mean, Liz, Meghan Markle there, saying to some young girls at a school that she's the most bullied person on the planet.
No,
one of the most.
There's being bullied, and then there's behaving in such a manner and saying things that attract criticism. And I think the criticism can be positive or negative, but most of the criticism of her has been negative, and I think she deserves it. Mm-hmm. But I don't wish to bully her on live TV.
Well, I mean, there is a flip side to it, Benjamin. Some people consider that Meghan Markle is something of a bully. Look at the number of staff she got through when she was actually living in this country and serving as a frontline royal.
Well, that's true. And there was a massive US magazine report the other day that suggested that some staff were very unhappy in America. But look, I mean, we talk about Meghan Markle like she's Myra Hindley or something. I think a sense of proportion wouldn't go amiss.
I agree. It's a bit harsh on Myra.
Yeah. Or Rose West or any of them, right? We are quite aggressive towards her. We're slightly obsessed in the media, whether it's British or American media, and I can imagine that's not nice to be on the receiving end of.
Yes.
But I do think there's something really off about going and talking to young girls, going and talking to young people and saying, pity me. Well,
in a £2,000 dress.
Exactly. You're worth tens of millions of dollars. You live a life of luxury unimaginable to 99.99% of people on the planet. You should be telling those young people what they can achieve, not what they can fear.
Well,
I think she's always gone on girls, you can do anything. Well, yeah, you can marry somebody rich.
Who's a prince.
And that escalates your status in the world enormously. I think the most bullied person in this story is her husband. I think he's gone from another of my, I wouldn't mind going to the pub with him, guys, to the most emasculated man in the United States.
I completely agree. He is completely pushed around by her.
Hands, she touches his arm. It's all so staged, and I think he's completely lost his purpose. He must be feeling dreadful because, let's face it, his two members of his very closest family, his father and his sister-in-law, have been battling cancer all year. And I've looked into this because cancer's touched our family recently. We know what contributes to cancer? Stress. Because it produces cortisol, which inflames your system, and your cells go haywire. So I'm not saying, I don't think it's done the family's health any good. The stress that she brought on them.
Chloe, is this conversation an example of bullying Meghan Markle? I mean, this is a woman who was a successful actress before she met Harry. She's an accomplished woman. She's wealthy. She's world famous. What is her great crime that invites such opprobrium?
I mean, she has, tried to completely tarnish the reputation of the royal family. She's bullied them, making up fake stuff about them. She's a complete attention seeker, right? And we're allowed to criticise her. There's a difference between criticism and bullying, I'd never throw a punch at her or spit in her face or anything like that.
I saw the other day.
She just begs for sympathy, and it is so pathetic from someone in such a high position.
A Windrush, a man that came over on Windrush to the UK called Alfred Gardner, who died aged 98 last week, and he was asked in an interview about the racism and being blocked from jobs and all sorts of things that had happened when he came here in the 60s. And he said, I've had the best life imaginable because they were the losers and I moved on and lived my life. Well, if someone that faced really nasty racism can do that, then I think Meghan Markle can survive.
Amen to that.
Give her a right of reply. Why do you get her on here one Friday
There you go.
night? And we'll all ask her nice questions, and she's got a platform to answer for herself.
Let me tell you, we have tried, but the invitation stands. Meghan, if you're watching, come and join us on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. No bullying here. Now, claims for mental health benefits have surged to almost 400 a day. It follows a surge in diagnoses of conditions such as anxiety, depression and ADHD. 150,000 people now claim mental health benefits, compared to 47,000 in 2019. I'll be honest with you, this story is doing my head in. It's driving me mad, and it's affecting my mental health. Look, if people are in a genuinely dark place or have a severe mental disorder, they must get help and support. Male suicide, for example, is a huge and tragic problem that must be addressed. But this is an industry now. For example, who hasn't got ADHD? It's the most middle-class thing ever, isn't it, to have ADHD? There are now companies that make a fortune from the diagnosis of this hard-to-define problem. And would you believe it? The pharmaceutical companies have cashed in and are profiting from our mental misery. How unfortunate, therefore, that recent research into antidepressant medication suggests that it hasn't made people any happier, or a report into mental health provision in schools, which has, wait for it, reportedly made children more miserable, not less. You couldn't make it up. Now, medication and counselling are a lifesaver for many, and always consult your GP. But the glorification of mental health is now an industry. It's a money spinner, and it exploits its victims with false hope and worthless remedies. It is bankrupting the NHS and businesses and draining the welfare state. It is a scam. And the commercialisation of mental health is a pillar of woke ideology, tapping into the narcissism of poor me. Here's a bit of breaking news. Life is difficult. We have problems. It's hard. There is pain. Now, I spoke to one of the country's leading psychotherapists recently who won't treat his clients until they've looked at how much sleep they're getting. Are they taking drugs or too much alcohol or eating badly? If so, don't. Are they getting enough sunlight, fresh air and exercise? And have they sorted out their finances? He said that if a potential client has addressed all of those issues, then he will treat them. Otherwise, don't waste his time. This obsession with mental health is, quite frankly, mental. Liz Kershaw, mental health in industry.
Well, first of all, it's a misnomer because everybody talks about, my mental health. It's mental ill health. Mental health when you've got healthy mental
That's true.
mind. Yeah.
It's mental health. Is it the new bad back?
Well, what it is, it's spread. You mentioned, the middle class. When I lived in North London, and everybody at the primary school whose kid was a bit thick had him diagnosed as having dyspraxia or dyslexia.
Some other fancy diagnosis.
We were just going, it's just thick. But because the parents...
He's now in the cabinet,
because
by the
one
way.
of the parents might have worked for The Guardian and another one, a doctor or something, couldn't possibly be that. And now it's spread to everybody. 10 years ago, I remember looking into this, and only 1% of the National Health Service budget was spent on mental ill health. And it was the poor relation, and it was a scandal. I don't know what it is now, but all that's happening is the people are just piling out the pills to get people out of the surgery in 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
And there's no talking therapies, and that's what really is needed.
Amen to that. Benjamin, this will make you laugh. This is in today's Telegraph.
Finally, something on the show.
There you go. It's a first. Theme park disability queue jump. Let me say it in English. Basically, disabled people can't go on rides at Thorpe Park because all of the middle-class people with an ADHD diagnosis are jumping the queue.
I suppose the clue's in the name that they need attention.
Just a bit.
To be honest, a few medics have said to me that I might have ADHD over the years, and both my brother and my sister have been diagnosed. But I kind of don't want to be it seems quite plausible, but I kind of don't want to be diagnosed with it because it's like a TikTok trend at the moment. Now, there's a bad side because I might legitimately have something that would make my life better by tackling it, but I don't like being associated. But I do think that the real reason there's an explosion in this is, one, because lots of people were living miserable lives and they weren't being dealt with.
Especially during lockdown, they had time to...
Exactly. And then you've got a generation of people, younger, maybe Chloe's generation, that, sit behind a screen, it's all they've ever known, and it feeds ridiculous ideas that make them miserable.
I think it is. I think people, you touched on this as well, I think people just expect to be happy now.
Right.
And you should not be miserable in today's world. It's not. I'm not accepting it. So,
And if you're not happy, there's something wrong with you, which there ain't. Turns out, plot spoiler, Chloe, life is difficult.
Life is difficult, and I think that we do have a generation of young people who have this victim mentality, and everything in their life is going wrong, when actually we are the luckiest people in the world to grow up in a first world country where we have, you know, free speech, human rights and all the rest of it. You could have been born in some slum in some awful place in the world. We are so lucky. I think there are two completely different debates here, and that's the ADHD thing, the attention crisis, and then mental health problems. I mean, I'll just touch on the mental health problem side firstly. The NHS, they, as you say rightly, they just try and push people out by giving them pills, when actually, if you sorted out the fundamentals in their life, like, are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? Do you get exercise? Do you have good relationships with friends and family? Those things would resolve so much. And the NHS, they really need to improve their position.
Okay.